Hello, America, world, young leader slash world. This is where we are three bound identities of value, and where value is nature slash nature as value, where that is three distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous identities of sequence slash simultaneous nature. By with or to from as with and for itself from two other and as two other identities of sequence slash simultaneous nature, and so as value as nature slash nature as value, where and how the cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall are bound, and they are also value as nature slash nature as value, where they are two identities of sequence slash simultaneous nature coming through that. They're bound also with other cells, the body of value, body of air, water. Everything is connecting to where and how one identity of forever nature is making more and more of itself. To what it can't be is temperature temporary. But this is also as a system, this identity of volume, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that onto those five identities of sequence slash simultaneous nature, which have that identity of that trinity inseparable from themselves as well. That's how they are bound. And this is how they are only increasing identity as value as nature slash nature as value, invisible but still discernible. When they are not. So this is a breaching method that took modern nations to that pathology of infrastructure and of means to it, and of self-valued roles with it, as victims, as fact-cheaping nature slaves. Also further hurt, tricked, persuaded, and worse. So what? And for speed, the instances. This method knew that all identities pretending to be integrity, for example, note in relationship to the breaching method, torture method of people stacking, and of all that juxtaposed simultaneous natures of it. New York City, anywhere there are cities, even where they had to put, we have to understand how America from Wethersfield, Connecticut. You have to understand America from James Madison's counter-extortion plan that George Washington agreed to go with. Since before he had to meet with George, before the revolution, the Revolutionary War, before they even had the fake unity on their own. It was the only reason they had the unity on their own, real, was because of the real unity that came with this plan, where they couldn't tell the truth about how that unfolded. So James Madison didn't sign our Constitution. So we have to discern how offensively the scientists are invested, and having been invested, to and as what is only capable of hiding life aggressions, teach identity of the ground location, and in relationship to what has each age of fact-cheaping nature. See, in this theater, where they even need and so they have complete possession over each age of fact-cheaping nature, of the families, of the identities of titles, and of jobs, and of opinion natures, including overt criminal enterprises, killers, people associated with the body and blood response, where they are all victim predators, where is all recorded with ties to this method that creates instances of collusion with predicate acts and with predicate acts methods by one method that no one was responsible for, but it effectively kept and keeps, not only is that self-valued, and the defenses of that are defenses of premises treatments, of sequence treatments, of finite, active, and progressive value/value treatment, value nature treatments, in finite, active, progressive, in identity, where and how it is a semi-nature relationship to that identity of volume, which is only increasing. Only the extent of it is debatable. And who and what debates it, where they force identity to mean what it is, no. Distinctly, because there are countless campuses, but also non-distinctly. And it is self-valued. How that is obfuscated in relationship to this. So victims went for value nature systems, tactical ulterior, simultaneously pretending others, simultaneously needing to simultaneously do things and value everyone simultaneously, non-integrity of science, passions, emotions, the uses of the phrase evidence-based. See, if someone's not, one, they teach them, the experts, like if people aren't using proper logic or reason, they have to have a way to explain that to them. So they would say evidence-based. And show them how they're using premises wrong. See, but the people doing this are themselves using premises wrong. And so more and more they're valuing the phenomenon and all the phenomena as identities, the ground locations, victims of each age of fact treatment nature, with them sickly distinctly, blaming other things, others themselves, defending premises treatments that are wrong because of how they're evidence-based. Wrong. See, but we have to have first correlation nature understood. See, we have discorrelation roles, and then defenses of that as styles that are simultaneously defensive premises treatments that were maintained, manifest, needed effectively to keep the grounds, to keep motivated instances that are real and that are completely made up, described into databases and verbally and perceived, but with naive perception, then having to rely upon itself. And, I don't know, we'll examine this because this is inter-campuses and intra-campuses, and where and how it is recorded and was recorded, even though it was simultaneously, they're putting fake records so they could pretend to deny this. That is evidence too, because this is how what is simultaneous. We are individualized fact treatment nature. We are grouped ages, areas, sexes, locations, states, invisible but still discernible. We are grouped, and we are species identity of volume, because the impression of because of what it looks like, where distinct identities of volume won't mix with each other but one way, and they will only increase. So, or length of IDs is forced, and that's increased too. Can't stop it. You can't help but be temporary / lasting positive to an extent, and that can never let go of its identity. But you can't help but be temporary, positive or negative, in relationship to this science, in relationship to the 1/3/5 identities of sequence nature. If science was honest and not using truths for lies, not making up things, not with physical delusions, science would be using this all the time. The slash, the slash, so did this. Other names for it you can read about on Wikipedia. Look up the syllabus in the dictionary. The dictionary is one of the greatest resources. See, but they're obfuscate. They're taking away what the means to discern that further and further by using truths for lies, and by using delusion, self-value, by individually grouped and together. Experts and opinion natures of all victims in relationship to the ground. So how they describe how they have overt criminal enterprises on campuses. That's tied to how they've been made already. They've been making, or had been made, self-valued instances, where the instances they're making are the investigators, and vetting identities. Our roles with making instances that are simultaneously uses of identity of the grounds, identity of value progression, and our uses of other people's identities and everyone involved with that. Forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, more and more to such ways, to be self-valued criminal insidiousness natures of positive fact achievements, defenses of the premises of what is positive or negative, that are criminal insidious natures of positive, and our criminal insidious natures of negative, insidiously, overtly / insidiously positive, and overtly / insidiously negative, to collusion with all areas, locations, areas, states. So they have the sense and sensibilities, use Jane Austen's phrase. They have the human fact-achieving nature. They have the human syntax nature. They have the human nervous system, reliant upon, fake science, emotions and passions faked. So when it comes, so there are evidences, for example, where and how bad tragedies in those identity of the ground locations where are being and having been involved with that other method / S that has people creating instances, so where they're making truths and or just overt lies, faked instances. You could say truths used as for lies, or you could just say lies used for truths. The point is that the lie is of a nature, is related to motivations, and is more importantly related to the method, which is also discernible through how methods are standing manifest, increasingly self-valuing, how all the other sciences, all the other departments of each campus, all their other relationships known by them and not fathomed, between on and off campuses connections. This is a method that used the identity of the ground locations that were engineered for this since before our founders were born, with slavery entrenched thickly, distinctly in the North and in the South, per how the ground, not just through the reasons known and unknown, for that was employed itself to keep everyone blaming other things other than themselves for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, action nature, and then to defend that everyone using tactically, criminally foreign influence premises treatment, sequence treatments, finite active progressive treatments, identity treatments, using naive reactions. For example, they don't have space with hospital now. We have death counts now because of how experts on the law, regardless if they are doctors of whatever, that are involved with this, with the exploitation of anomaly associated with databases, but also further and further, originally and still worse kept that outcome per how they are using the identity of the ground locations to create instances. So for example, there's So we'll examine this. So, dear President Obama and/or President Trump and/or President Biden, there are the election locations, religious locations, military locations, forensics locations that are all, for example, involved with recorded rolls with timed and connected creation of instances with locations that were also where and how Wethersfield, intercities, interbranch is leading up to the World Trade Center attack. In that context, and since it, in a whole bunch of bound ways, simultaneously having been Washington, D.C. type, and to this, which is manifest intra-campuses. That is also coordinated inter-campuses through time, the intercities too, private and public schools and homeschool. And the difference, all differences, being used to get over on what this isn't, what it is for. To discern that which is real different, in other words, that which is the only identity of volume connected to those 5 identities of sequence nature simultaneously. So the proverbial devil knew that what the archetypal criminal enterprise, a predicate acts delivery system method, a human fact cheaping nature breaching method, a human fact cheaping nature syntax nature breaching method. It engineered, tactically denatured as landscape theater. It re-engineered and tactically denatured the entire surface of the earth, even where and how it is not overtly tactically denatured. There is complete syntax captivation of the sciences individually grouped and together, everywhere they are, in every modern nation. This is a phone method. So where there are serious tragedies and things like that, there are evidences where there are connections between them, and where they deal with specific sequence shifts and rape threats and predicate acts, falsified police reports, mail crimes, fake communications between doctors and kids, attaching kids to fake locations, spreading lies through uses of each age of fact-cheating nature of doctors, foreign and domestic, in collusion with uses of identity the ground locations, like all around Town Line Drive, all around where there are, all around routes, all along Route 3, all along the route from where George Washington had to meet with the French general right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War to secure their help for that plan. Not just to fight against England. That's a truth used for a lie. This was to fight against that which was preventing the surface values of the Constitution, that which was preventing the simultaneous identities of positive, simultaneously the value of that, which is not complicated from having its free speech. So one must teach. 10. So, in other words, there's a whole bunch of people's names that were involved with creations of instances that I don't know. And if I use the name, it sounds like I know them. And they try to use that truth for a lie. These are people, that don't themselves know. Because this is how, like, for example, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, is one of the ones. It recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Foreign and domestic families involved with predicate acts with them, and with his lawyer, and with the identity of the ground location on off his lawyer's office in Hartford, Connecticut, right down the street from the Harriet Beecher Stowe House and Mark Twain House, involved with dozens of kids from my town. Therefore, hundreds of families and things like that, connected to life progressions, connected to the illusions with those instances they created. Fake. And how they do that, the method /S that they have shared is also shared by another method that knew that each modern nation, locations, states, areas were going to do this, and they were going to maintain forced self-valued roles with it to any leader. And they effectively did that with methods bound, but bound by a method even worse. So let's all rehearse. Because the Constitution unabridged, the nature of the law is where it is read distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously outside on identity ground locations. Sequence true. So we had all programs to have all sense and sensibilities. We had everything used to have all syntax nature, the human nervous system used, individually grouped it together. Anything coming using short words protracted properly, using positives, actual proper science, has too many layers of criminal and seditious natures already invested to uses of what positive treatments, truth treatments, fact treatments, as criminal and seditious natures. Too much to be able to defend that in themselves, individually grouped and together, and to afford the quality of sophistication that can bring instant reliefs to all locations, areas, and states, and that can bring the syntax of that capable to other nations at the same time, because we can draw this in relationship to an archetypal criminal enterprise and or the identity of negative value nature progression acts and natures recorded having been forced to be blamed on other things other than themselves through the decades too, for people with naive reactions. They don't have, they're in the buildings of the hospitals with that pathology of thought and of integrity that accepts the people stacking in New York City. The people stacking, where they made single homes into 3-family homes, 2-family homes, because this was in line with and as that pathology that employed those crazy, sick, demented, fake care laws at the same time to maintain roles with instances where everyone was furthering illusions and hiding life progressions and self-valuing roles with means and needs to, and everyone else already doing that to all locations through apparent motivations being claimed by everybody, mixed delusions, all victim roles of this. Each age of fact treatment nature is a target. This is through administrations as what is inseparable from the people, and names evolved with Wethersfield into Branch. So now they are victims, but they are also being and having been victim predators with the uses of their identity ground locations, every single one of them. Every single modern nation. Science with passions true never spoke for New York City, never spoke for Hartford, never spoke for a suburb, let alone urban areas. And Hartford is a suburban/urban city. Now this is also in relationship to their the counters of this are employed and having been employed to roles with the instances creations that are also involved with the sequence shifts, which is also one of the things that are common to where and how we have all naive qualities of fact treatment nature, overtly and insidiously blamed on correct things, but also on things wrongly. That's how they're getting away with it. And or when people blame it correctly, you know, not by accident, they're self-valuing everyone's roles, lying about those people, which is collusion with that already being and having been done, if it was proven or not. That's what's actually recorded. So rather than stay talking about what no one's going to understand, we have to get down to the actual sequence shifts, which are the subject/S, and the actual how the investigators, they're involved with mail crimes, the military investigators. They're also involved with a whole bunch of other countries, like Russia. They're involved with syntax, fact treatment, nature, racketeering, way worse than war crimes. With all their word treatments, let alone their phrase treatments. With the investigators having been fabricating complete conversations with American citizens. As investigators and groups and identity ground locations like Harvard Hospital involved with that were also involved with the creation of instances where and how they were involved with predicate acts on and off cases, on and off court buildings, Connecticut courts. Before that, the World Trade Center attack in the context in Connecticut, as the ones further involved with proven post-dated documents that had been shown to the Ninth Circuit Court in Manhattan, right next to the World Trade Center, right before that attack. So I'll gather back. So follow free speech. We have branches of government that were raised, needing to make to self-value being and having been made by the courts and by the police forms, lies about people. Therefore, worse than just allegations. Therefore, one of the ways they are used remotely, in every case, as weapons used in relationship to the instances creation method and uses of it. So I don't know this Jamie Carone and the Joe Lombardo, but they were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Involved when I was in high school with people where they're attaching little kids to fake locations, fake communications with others, fake words, fake sequence relationships, falsified police reports roles where the police have their roles with that. They forge names, switch names, make confessions about that out of context. They also time where they make confessions to people. So if they say that, which is in other words, someone could just walk by you and say something to you. You don't know what they're even talking about. That's what they even do things like that, tied to where and how they put people in fake locations. So we have to deal with the sequence shifts. This is right through administrations. That which was involved with the World Trade Center attack is also syntax oriented, where Washington, D.C. and the World Trade Center, they have syntax relationships to where and how they have jobs, and where there are titles or titles, and everyone associated with them privately. And it is also per how that is kept right back to their homes, right back to the corners, right back where everyone's going to be. Because this is syntax. This is syntax, fact, treatment, nature oriented. Predicate acts roles, wrongdoing roles, criminal and seditious nature roles that are in the way of mandated law, and being and having been needing to pretend to be other. So we have increasingly criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought readings of the law by the legal experts. That's why another reason why we have to address their sequence shifts, roles with other cases tied to the World Trade Center attack, tied to their roles with the Harvard Hospital and with other hospitals in Connecticut, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with the foreign and families and people and forced to roles with it, with them and with the other countries, forcing them, having been needing to hide live aggressions with them since before that. All these real distinct countries like Russia, Saudi Arabia, in the news, they are simultaneously being and having been forced to roles with our military and other militaries, like Kuwait, involved with deans too. They involve deans and their family members. And then they involve all the campuses. They involve mayors, everyone's family members, in a vertical horizontal, especially where we have medical corruption. Especially we have the overt criminal enterprises and the people training, like with the DACA in the past. And you know, and the neighbors of everyone, like the mayors. This is how they're keeping things, where they're preventing mandated law on time, and while they're still stacking rolls with remotely used database identities of value/value progression. This knew that this effectively has all identity of the ground location set up the same way physical computers are set up. All identity of ground locations. The microchips are locations printed onto them to mimic. Even they have that ordered where they mimic RAM memory distinctly, and they're different types of memory. So, but memory and locations and grounds, identity of value/value progression was revealed, understood by the ancients, and they can't afford to have us use correlation and the protraction of short words, not onto and as an abridged identity of value/value progression, whether it's a living one or one that is the body of a group, or you know, that is a home, a location, as ground, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously from us as life. So this is a hyper police report. This is a hyper affidavit. This is a hyper citizen's arrest. So we're going to need federal stewardships of Connecticut and of elections locations like Wethersfield town offices, and in relationship to how they've had roles with, you know, countries like Afghanistan, the countries that are, you know, all countries are victims, needed to react to it, where everyone is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, blaming and having blamed this on other people, other things, others through time. So there's also Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University involved with Wethersfield. Those are in two different towns. Involved with the former director of the FBI and federal criminals and foreign families involved with predicate acts with them and with his lawyer and with deans and things like that. Everyone's speaking through others. They prevent paper. All exceptions in exception nature are a demonstration of that. They prevent responses because they had fake conversations. They even have fake conversations with people that are victims of them with locations. Then they have fake conversations about what happened to them. In other words, they pretend into databases that they tried to complain about things that actually happened in relationship to how they are using it and having used instances. I barely know a Paul Zano. He was involved with others when I was a kid. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with making instances, and they used to use the phrase "Jew" a lot. You know, and they used to say it like that, you know, because there are roles with it, judges and prosecutors with identity theft, fraud, the ones attaching kids and me when I was a kid and as an adult to fake locations, fake ties to doctors, fake ties to mental diagnosis, fake words with my family. Other kids are doing the same thing. So it's because of how they've been exploiting anomaly associated with no one looking into databases. They know no one's going to go back and check. They're putting each age of it. Then they have roles with that, and they make it self-valued for how and what really kept and keeps the investigations. Investigators needed it, specifically so we could have them. We have to say need where we have what we don't need. simultaneously. We have the simultaneous, self-valued by science natures that are fake science. Fake. That's why and how. What is all that is simultaneous is not, we need to overcome it real fast. Start class. So please follow mandated law regarding the specific acts I'm trying to report. They pretend not to understand on a mass scale while they're fabricating audio and video against people, our experts. They have online social media recorded, confessed, demonstrated, victim predators and delusions raw with the interbranch recorded. They have the Facebook pages of interbranch Facebook pages and of their child schools involved with rape threats and sequence shifts when that was being sustained with worse on the principal child defender's campus. And they still not letting me speak about that because there was more confessed with that, and that by using methods of pretending had conversations with people, and that was since before they caught that. I caught more worse with than as that, and tied to it. There are people on Two-Rod Highway, on off Two-Rod Highway. There's a involved with the judges and their family members, also with this Dillon family, and with the people with the military, foreign and domestic, intercities. Since the World Trade Center attack, leading up to it, in that context, and since every year they've been attaching me to fake words, more predicate acts, more names and illusions stacking. I want a response. See, Renaissance.